Hello everyone. This video is going to be done just to demonstrate the concept that we've been discussing in trading a little while, called essentially double units or split units. And we need to change a few setups to be able to do that. So one, the most important is the master strategy, right? We're not using the bracket, and I'll hit edit to show you what that looks like. So number of levels, since we're splitting it and we're splitting it into two, right, is this number has to be set to 2. At this point, with the low volume, we're seeing a initial profit target of 3 ticks and a secondary profit target of 4 ticks. Notice no trailing stops are set, no break-evens are set, and if the quantity percentage is being used, then this number is 50, and then whatever is left over is the remainder. We're just using 2, so it's going to appear on the dome as 1 and 1. Okay, so just hit save on that, and notice I'm still check mark there. The other thing is, if we're going to be trading, since we're going to be trading 2 units, right? We've got to make sure we've got 2 units entered in the entry area, right? So if this is a singular contract unit, this is the way I'm showing it, then we've got to make sure this quantity is set at 2, right? And then otherwise it's just going to be a singular entry if you have it set at the traditional 1. You're not forced with this particular method that we're using with the 2-minute, watching the 2-minute and potentially reversing. You could still do it perfectly well with 1 unit. You do not have to increase your exposure if you don't want to. Right? So like everything else in trading, some individual decisions and has to be made. All right, so I have the account and order position tracker up here, so we can keep track of what the profits are so far. So we can kind of manage a trade just in case we need to add to it, and or particularly reverse, right? Because if we reverse, it means we have set up at least a short-term loss, and when we reverse and potentially add to it going the other way, we want to make sure that we get that money back, right? And initially, right? And if the market isn't cooperating, then maybe we can start to be more conservative, but initially to do that. The other thing of importance, and then again, this is an individual decision as well. On the dome, I have remained to have essentially a half unit or a 1 contract entry on the dome. The reason for that is if we get into a scenario that we want to add another unit just to be able to get out a little bit sooner. For instance, it went against us a little bit, but not to the degree that we're ready to reverse, and we add to it, I like to place those, and then in that case, we would have turned the master strategy off ahead of time, right? And if I added another unit from over here, I'm going to place the exits on the dome, right? The exits on the dome manually, so I can start to get out of that trade in the profit region, not at the 3 or 4 ticks from the last entry. That is not how I want to manage that trade. Okay, so now that we have gone through that, as was requested kind of yesterday, I'm going to go ahead and click the show P&L. And it shows I can't make this any smaller, really, right? Unfortunately, it's really big, and it takes up some chart space. But anyway, you'll be able to see the P&L just in case I do need to go through that manual, adding another entry and setting the profits. You'll be able to see where I'm setting the profits in the P&L to be able to get back to that particular level. Okay, so let's see, 6:27. We still got some time. Let's see. I think I have covered this setup, right? And again, the software settings that we are using is showing us the 2-minute closes right, as a down close in yellow, right, and a 2-minute up close in green. Everything else is pretty much the same. We are showing 2-minute high lows, right, as well as 5-minute high lows, right? So get that information over there. I've chosen, you could also with this software select to see also the 5-minute close, but right, can't have everything on the chart. Have to make some decisions for chart clarity, and so I have chosen not to put the 5-minute close on there. I need to move this Snagit thing over to a different area so it's not on top of my trading screen. Okay, so again, you will see all my orders reflected on this chart, right? So you'll see them on the chart, you'll see them on the dome, but you won't see my mouse clicking over here, right? Because I'm still using my double wide monitor scenario for monitoring the market and making trade decisions. 6:30 is coming up, so the market open is coming up. The volume is okay, but I think only because of the non-farm payroll change. After we get some 6:45, 7 o'clock news, and a little bit later, market is not very happy right now. I expect, maybe after 7:30, going into a long weekend, the volume is going to dry up. We shall see. Now the market is pretty jittery. I normally don't want to trade too much before 7:33 or 6:33. We shall see though. It's going to be a little bit crazy. We'll see. So there's the open. Open was close to the bottom. So we gotta let them get the initial, at least the initial jitters out, and see what they're going to do. Volume on the dome is okay. Not super light. It's just a little bit on the volatile side. Everything is still moving down. We are above TBR. The coming up into the 25% lower area. Don't really want to chase because that's kind of tough in terms of making a decision on if you need to reverse or not. Because if you're chasing, kind of like by definition, you're a long way away from an ideal entry point. All right, so did not quite hit the minute average just yet, but we're definitely off of the Globex lows. The Globex high is the all-time high again, by the way. Little selling, not too much follow through. Let's see. Up to the top end of this trading range, going back into the minute average as well. Still no trades. We did hit the minute average though. See what it does with the 632 close. So for the 632 and the 25% lower line is holding so far. go either way. Kind of depends on activity. So there's 633. We're still above the 632 bar. All right, I'm short 7 3/4, as you can see. Looking for a little bit more of a dip here. So let's see, it didn't go straight forward in terms of getting me out, so I have turned the master strategy off. Just need a little bit more room. See, there's no particular reason, a little buying come again, no particular reason for it to stop there, so I'm waiting a little bit longer. 5-minute low is a 7 1/4. I mean, excuse me, 2-minute low. I mean, that could be one reason. So if it takes off from here, and that seems to be holding so far, can't really reverse into a declining minute average. So still waiting. Out of 1, out of 2. All right, I do have to come over here to hit generate, right, to see my profits. So with the double unit, I'm up 1 3/4 points. I turn the master strategy back on. So I'm ready for the next trade. Remember, we do have 6:45 news. So we've got services PMI coming up, composite PMI. Since I've been playing with these settings a little bit on modifying the indicators, I have something not set. So sometimes I'm getting a 2-bar combination on one chart and not the other, so I'll have to check that out. I think I know what it is, and it wouldn't affect you, but I think I know what it is. I could hear it anyway, so not that big of a deal. Okay, a little bit close to S1 right now. It did dive under S1, going to yesterday's low, around to make the Globex low. So we'll see what's going to go on here. 636. We can see the 636 close right around TBR1. Anything long here, of course, would be counter trend. It of course would have to be continuing to appear to run away from this 2-minute close. Right now it doesn't necessarily seem like, yeah, I'm going to run away from it. I'm hanging around. So not necessarily, and I would not necessarily want to go short into S1, the open, and yesterday's low at this point. If it goes down beneath it, then that's information. That will be a sign of a pretty weak market. But it's got to show me something, and right now it's not showing me anything to the upside. Still kind of trailing down. 3x Renko down into the again the yesterday's low range, indicating pretty weak market. 637. News is at 645. We still have time to take a trade. It's just a matter of it's got to show us a little bit here. I'm going to try it short. As you can see, I'm short 275, going for 22. And remember, I'm on sim, so okay, there's one out. I'm on sim, so sometimes it takes a while to get out on sim. Okay, so I'm out of the trade. right, so did not need to turn the master strategy off, so it's still set, and I'll hit generate. To check on profits. Let's see, looks like we're bouncing a little bit here. 638. We have 645 news. I'm going to try, I tried to bargain 475. I'm at 475, going for 5.5 and 575. Let's see if it'll get back up here towards the last 2-minute high. And this is counter trend. So far not working out. I'm going to turn the master strategy off. Not adding to it. I just wait to see if it get back up here and bounce a little bit off of the open again. Master strategy is off just in case I need to, at this point, reverse. We shall see. All right, out of that trade. All right, so that was a counter trend trade. As you can see, it come up here, hit generate again. All right, so see up a little bit over 5, and I turn the master strategy back on. 639, so remember we've got 645 news, and so up 5.25, and I'll just wait a minute. We're not in a great area for either, right? I don't want to go long into the minute average. I don't want to go short, even though it would have worked before. I don't want to go short into, again, S1 in the open, especially with news coming in. Let's see, got a little bit to go. Up to the minute average. I'm going to take my hand off the mouse. Remember, we're using double units, so if it's kind of sketchy at all, right, in terms of time, pressure, etc., I think it best to just take your hand off the mouse. So yes, I was a little bit tempted there, but you don't want double units. You can't. You know, we're not going to stretch it. So best. I mean, we're practically doubling profits anyway from early morning trading that goes in our way. That goes our way. So we're up over 5 in 3 trades. Again, 645 news coming up. Which is a services PMI and a composite PMI. And these are final numbers, so they shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Right, coming up in about 2 minutes. the services PMI forecast is 55.2. The composite last time was 55.4. These are final numbers. We've already seen preliminary and those sorts of things. All right, so we are undervalued low. Again, with that non-farm payroll information, the market is not very happy. China was off from a market today with that announcement that they're going to have, with no other information other than they're just going to create a Beijing stock market. No other explanation on Shanghai and or differences between the two. So anyway, China, throw new information that's in there that isn't quantified, then markets, I don't care what part of the world they're in, don't like it. About 30 seconds to go. Don't think this is going to be a huge surprise number, and it's really not. It's 55.1 instead of 55.2, so ever so slightly down. And the composite is on forecast or last time at 55.4. Now, sometimes the news, the movements right after news and right after the hour changes are a little bit false, so we're right down to the open. Still, we're kind of we've narrowed the range, right, between the little trading range. So let's see which way they decide to break out. And if they just stay here, then we'll take our hands off the mouse and wait for a very deliberate move. Buying coming in. I'm going to try it. 6 3/4 going for 7.5. It is a little bit. Got some buying. I'm going to turn the master strategy off just in case. We're just up to pivots. These pivots in here, and I would be out prior to the 25%. Lower line and value low, so it's just a matter if it continues or not. Again, remember this is not normal trading. We're in the final day of kind of like the watching it here to see if we should reverse. Don't want to, but we'll see. Couldn't make it up. I'm going to go and reverse just as much as a demonstration as anything else. We're on. All right, so I had to come up here. I was at 262, so I got to get 230-ish to break even. I'll probably go to add to it unless I have to reverse again. So hang on. Without adding to it, I would be out before the Globex low, but I will want to close this gap. All right, I just added to it. And depending on what it's doing here, I'll just wait and see. Come on, there's out of 1, out of 2, out of 3. We're still in it, so we have to check to see how we're doing. Right, so and I'm out of the trade. All right, the reason I went ahead and hit the you generate a little bit early is because just in case that last contract didn't hold or didn't get out and I had to make another decision, I wanted to see where my profit level needed, or where I could get out that profit level. As you can see, I set it so that I was overall profit. So that's a pretty good example of a reverse, and I'm glad I took that trade, even though it was a little bit of a questionable breakout, right? And you saw me reverse, managing to see what I had to get, where I had to get out of the market to make money. It was a little bit too far away. Market was still coming down, so I added to it, and you saw how I managed that trade. All right, so while we're in coffee break time, right, and we're up 8 points. I am going. Of course, we're still recording. I'm going to make sure, because I think we've got a few minutes here. I'm going to make sure that there are no questions about that we can potentially get the answers to on video. So if you have any questions about that, go ahead and type them in, just so that I don't forget and I'm ready for the next trade. I'm turning the master strategy back on. So any questions on that, go ahead and type them in. If I get one, I'll come back on microphone. But other than that, we say this is coffee break time, and we will wait for the 7 o'clock news. Okay, so no questions. So just let me add a commentary, and I'm not even looking at the market right now from a trading perspective. All right, just waiting for 7 o'clock news. Making sure we got some educational. So I went long here, right, on some buying, 2 bar combinations, etc. And I didn't need to go too far. I would have been out well before the 25% lower line, and the 2x20 and value low, all those sorts of things, but it didn't work out. So as you could see, I could have either just stayed long, added to it as it's coming up in here, and been out. I could have done that, right? But what if it didn't bounce, right, and came down lower? I'd be carrying unit from here to some other point that I chose, right? Which is what we're trying to not do, right? So by using this, I took the entry here, right? It almost immediately didn't start working out. The minute average was still coming down, so I took this in the one of the ideas of maybe getting an opportunity to do a reverse, and I did, right? So I reversed. It just wasn't going my way, fell back under a declining minute average. So I said, okay, well, enough is enough, right? So I reversed here. So now I'm short 2. And to originally get out, I think I needed to come back to close to then. I can't remember. but I needed to come down pretty far. So I didn't like where I needed to come down to before. Now, ultimately, as you can see, that would have worked out, but I don't want to hold forever that way either. So I want to keep my exit points relatively close as well to market price and market action. All right, so I added to it here, and you saw me stagger the exits here. So no intention of holding for long periods of time in a trade that is going away from us, which is one of the reasons that it is important. Let me clear the screen. One of the reasons it's important not to chase, right? So even though the market's kind of not in a happy place, right? So not to chase here because it bounced back up to the minute average. Not to chase in here, it bounced back up some. Not to chase here, right? Bounce back up some, right? Doesn't mean that it's always going to bounce back up, because as we know, if the market is very angry, going counter trend speculatively in these areas can be troublesome as well. So that's why getting trades closer to the areas that are important, being minute average, even fast flex as it was breaking back down. If it was a coffee break time, this area, right? Maybe after it broke the yesterday's low, would have been a pretty good entry point, right? Had an expansion going down underneath everything, pretty much, and could have taken a short trade there, right? Video is more for educational purposes today, and we're trying to use our discipline. We're up 8 points, trying to use our discipline to not trade in the coffee break time, unless we really think it. I mean, this one maybe would have been a pretty reasonable trade. Okay, 6:56. Still got a little bit of time to go. And remember, we do have 7 o'clock news. ISM non-manufacturing PMI. Just kind of ignoring some of these. I had the microphone muted. This gives me the option to also record system audio, so you would have heard those 2 bar combinations going off. But anyway, coming into the 7 o'clock news. minute and a half left. Still have 30 seconds. So this is that 658 push that we sometimes get after the market went down.
Trend change.
All right, so there's 7 o'clock news. The non-manufacturing index is slightly positive, not super positive. 61.7 versus a 61.6 forecast. Non-manufacturing prices is 75.4 versus last time of 82.3. New orders is 63.2 versus last time of 63.7. So nothing startling in terms of news. Now, right after 7 o'clock, we need to wait a bit. Right, sometimes the moves after 7 o'clock are a little bit funny, and we'll look for after we give it a little bit, we'll look for a trend entry that looks to be safer. Right, so on the long side now, we would have to wait till either a sideways action, stabilization, and then back above fast flex, or a little bit deeper pullback. Here's the 702 close. We're trying to implement I started to go long there, but we're trying to implement a 3-minute rule after each hour change as well. You'll see that on the time marker here in just another 15 seconds or so. That one wasn't bad, but we'll just be a little bit more patient. But my expectations is the volume is going to die today, I think. Maybe as soon as 7:20, 7:30, etc. So I'm not planning maybe to even trade all the way to 8:30 today. Back up to the highs and going into the VWAP, as you can see. this would be a little bit of a chase, especially going into VWAP. So I'm going to wait for a little bit better entry type, since I passed on that 702-ish trade. And I don't want to chase too much. I'm already up 8. Now I'm up to midline. So the market is trying to recover. Pivot point in yesterday's close is coming up. I see your question. Let me address it in just a moment when I'm not staring at the market quite so much. It's a good question. Right into the midline here. A little bit of selling from up there. I'm gonna try to, I'm bargaining. I'm gonna try to get in at 2.5. I'm in at 2.5, going for 3.25. This is pushing it a little bit, right? This is pushing it a little bit. I'm going to turn the master strategy off, and I'm clearly on the correct side of the market for now. I will be out before the pivot point. But this is kind of high, right? This would be a higher risk kind of entry. And I wanted to, see, and that's the reason. Because I chased it a little bit. But I want to see, this may end up being a good example or a bad example. I'm not going to reverse because I'm still in the right direction of the market. But I could potentially add to it to get out earlier if the market doesn't crater on me here, and it's trying to. So it's got to hold at some point. So this is going to be educational for one way or another, either staying with the market in a particular direction. There's the 2-minute close. If it comes back above this 2-minute close, could potentially add to it and get out earlier. Not adding just yet. 707. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add just to start to show you, at least on the dome, how I would manage this. Exit point I'm not in love with because it's right on the midline. So let's see if it starts to get a little more active here in terms of the up move. Like, you can add going in your direction as well. So let's just see what it does. Some buying going on. All right, I added to it again, and now I don't want to hang out here forever. All right, so I'm going to start to pull some of these exits down. So I'm right now I have 6. I'm at 222 to exit. So my average price is, my position average is close to price action. Don't want to reverse, but I do need it to break up a little bit more. Anything I get out of helps in the sense that my position average will be better. But now I have to watch it. So this will be educational one way or another. A little bit more. All right, I'm right into VWAP, which I don't love, right? So I needed to exceed VWAP again. But as you can see, now that I'm right here, if it turns ugly, right, and I go the other way in terms of if I go short, right, I'm still relatively close to my position average, Needs to hang in here. Here's 710. Let's see if the TBR1 will try to help it a little bit. If not, may have to, because I chased it, right? Because I chased it some. You know, I'll show you this in just a minute. Okay, I reversed. It's going to be educational one way or another. All right, I've got to get 750 to get back to where I was. I'm placing exits there. My exits are, let me move it up. So you can see my exits are there, and it's below the minute average. So I'm watching it to see for any more weakness. Don't really, like this, because really, again, remember I kind of chased. I'm kind of giving us a bad example here, a little bit. If it breaks my reversal point, or gives me a pretty good down bar, I could be adding to it again. And this is going to be a slow, see, it's 7-11. It's last trading day of the week, and the lowest volume time of the year. Back up to VWAP, which I needed it to break before, and it wouldn't for me. 712. A little selling going on there. Now it comes up to VWAP. They're killing me. So this is an example. Again, I kind of said this, right? Look where we started this trade. Up in the towards the guide band area, right? So I'm going to see what has to happen here. See, starting it that far away, especially since you're leveraging a little bit more. It gets to be dicier. I'm watching the market here. right around our 5-minute highs. We haven't hit the pivot point yet. Had a little bit of selling from the top. Again, this is kind of a all right, I'm going to go ahead and add to it. Brings my exit points up some. This is kind of a speculative add, right? It is. It's kind of a speculative add because I'm trying to manage this trade. Now, what I could be doing as well, checking on my profit level required to get me back to where I was, and I may or may not be able to do that. Right? I could start getting out at 28 3/4, right, to get me back to break even, back into the profit area. Let's go ahead and start to do that. So let's say I'm already starting to feel kind of sketchy about this trade, etc. So now you can see I've adjusted my profit to start to get out at the day's break even, to start to get out. Now, if it comes back down all the way, then I would still be profitable for the day. And if it comes all the way down, I'll be getting back into maybe even a profit addition. We shall see. Right now it's 7:15. We'll see what they want to do. If it breaks this 2-minute close, going into the minute average, I may add, trying to sell a little bit. That 2-minute close in the midline is holding right now. Kind of coming from the tops. So the longer it goes sideways, then the more the minute average is going to move up, which is going to challenge our exit points. This will be a good exercise. Not that this is what we want to trade. And I didn't absolutely know that it's going to pull back after the after getting up into that region, but I wanted to show you why we want to stay disciplined and what you can get into as a result. Still need to kind of wait here a little bit, right? We haven't got close to the pivot point, but not yet. Let's see, the pivot point is at 34. The dome gets a little bit tougher going up into there. But again, the pros are not in the market today just because of the 3-day weekend coming up. It's the slowest time of the year. All those things. That's why we're on sim and doing videos today. Another 2-minute up close. Just have to wait till the market's ready to roll over some. So as you can see, the more it's kind of nudging in time, right? The now will be significantly below the minute average and actually starting to get into value low to be able to exit this trade on the short side. Little selling. We need to get a little bit more anxious than that. I'm going to add to it, and I'm going to try to lighten up as early as I can and be okay. So I've kind of got a couple of units in there. Now we have to watch it around the minute average, right? So my position average is here. So if it gets weaker here, right, we've got midline and the minute average. If it gets weaker here on the way down, I could potentially sell into it a little bit more. We have to watch account margins. We have to watch all those kind of things. Don't want to sell right into the minute average. It needs to go down more. Outside bar on a 2 minute is kind of coming from the top. 720. It's in a questionable time. So finally got a 2 minute close, down close. And now it needs to push to the other side of that close, meaning to the down point. A little bit more. Not necessarily. It needs to break that price pivot that it's right at, which is right on the minute average. It's trying to. Doesn't mean it will break it. Went ahead and added to it, and just because I'm not sure it will come all the way down, I'm going to get those out a little bit earlier. Right, so this is doing what it does sometimes, right? It's just playing around the minute average. I'm looking at it. I don't want to reverse. I could potentially. My position average, as you can see, is kind of close to price action, fairly close. I'm still willing to sell into it some. I added to it, getting that out, both of those out at 30. As you can see, that's not my profit point. I'm going to start moving some of these up, right? Because I don't need it to come all the way down to make money. Just starting to manage my dome a little bit while keeping an eye on the market. I need a down move, 722. Around the 5 minute low. We're above the 2 minute close for now. Bringing a unit up a little bit, bringing some up a little bit. So the kind of like the midpoint of the exit is somewhere around the 9 1/4 area. So I need a little anger here, and minute average is starting to roll over a little bit. I need basically this is a pivot point, kind of a decision that the market has to make in a slow market. So we're going to watch it a little bit. We're underneath VWAP. Come on down. As it comes down, it will try to help me out. And we're on sim, and so it takes a while to exit. And a couple. I'm still going to be watching it here because it could still do strange things out of another level. Next level is 29. Come on. Now after I'm going to check my profit. I really need to get out of here at 9 1/4. That would help quite a bit. So you can see my P&L so far versus my dome P&L on how I kind of look at that. To make sure I have my dome kind of positioned so that I come out of this trade okay. Going back the other way a little bit. So since that is, I'm going to bring up my bottom unit up to where I last got out, just to give this a shot on getting out of some more, and now I have to watch it again. To see what it's going to do. 2-minute up close. Volume point of control just adjusted. So now we have a couple of data points, right? So in other words, if we fall under the volume point of control and again under fast flex, then maybe we can add to it to get out a little bit more. If volume point of control holds and the minute average holds, it wants to go up, we might have to consider another reverse. Watching it, I added to it again, get that one out there, going to get that one out there. So you see I have added. All right, so let's sometimes I check back in, make sure I have the right number of contracts on the dome. So just got out of one more after adding 2. I really want to get out that 9 1/4, but that 9 1/4 is, tell you what, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring out some more. So 9 1/2 and 9 1/4 now are both pretty significant. I'm in the money again for the day. As you can see on the everything else is just still come on down. it's still pretty soon. This is gonna, I think this is the one that will start to be likely green in terms of an exit and contribution. Come on. All right, so I'm out of that one. Let's see how we're doing. All right, so I'm only down. So I might end up being about break even on this trade if I get out of both of these levels, right? Maybe not quite break even. I mean, I'll be profitable for the day, but maybe not break even. Here's the 5-minute low. It's kind of important. All right, so I'm out of that one. And now I'll just wait for the next one. Oh, that one. Oh, that's my point up there. 125, 125. Yes, yeah. So even if I get out of here, I won't be. I mean, I will be profitable for the day, but not profitable from where I was leaving, because we were up 8 points, right? And now it looks like I got a possibility of being up about 5 if I can break this 5-minute low. But I've only got 2 units now. I can get back into the mode of I'm a slightly more relaxed. 7:30, I can do lots of things here, right? Or afterwards on a normal day. I mean, I may not be trading, so I'm out of the trade, right? So pulled all of those down. And so let's see how we did. So yeah, so you can see that how the P&L adds up. So I'm up 5 points for the day, and I was up 8, right? So and so I ate some commissions, and also lost some gross profit as well. Profit factor is 1.2, not great. All right, so I'm going to use the remaining time here educationally and show you why we do what we do, or what we want to try to do. Let's see. I don't think I need the dome at all. What I need is some more chart space. And I'm even going to move this out of here. All right, so let's see. Let's take a look at this trade. All right, so we had 7 o'clock news, and it was going up, up. You know, and even here I was like, I don't really want to chase it, but then I ended up chasing it, right? And what I said was, I just want to see what this is going to do. Sometimes these work, sometimes they don't. Okay? Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It looked like it might. So here's the first entry. It could definitely have decided to come up to the pivot point, right? And or the daily bias. Not to be confused with, there's also sometimes a desire to close the gap. It has not closed the gap so far, right? The gap being yesterday's close is at 35.25. I certainly didn't want to test that, but I pushed it, right? So let's just take a look. Here's one significant push. Let me roll back a little bit as well to do a more. That's what I thought, but now you can see it more. All right, so here's one push and a pretty significant push, right, into the guide band region, right? Coming into news, 6:58 push and 7 o'clock news, all right? So pull back some, right, but we were under fast flex. And here is the second, right, push into a guide band. Remember that, one push, it may come back and test the high. 2 pushes, after it has completed 2 pushes, that third push, right, and each subsequent push is less probable, right? So it's not as high a probability that it will continue and continue and continue. Hey, if it does, then that's a trending day. You'll recognize that, but you'll still want to take good entries. All right, so I pushed this one. Right, we're on simulation. Wouldn't have taken this, especially with double units. Would not have taken a trade up in here. But I wanted to get another example on video, and today's been a pretty good example for videos, both positive for the video, both positive, negative. So I took 2 units up in here, right? So dang it, all right. So I'm sitting here saying, okay, well I'm still kind of going with the trend, right? But here's the other point I want to make. I took this trade, but look how far I am away from, right, the minute average, and where I might make a decision to reverse, right? Because really you want to kind of get back on, if you're going to reverse, you kind of want to be close to price action so you don't have to go as far, right? So it dropped on me, right? This is, and it's a big drop, right, compared to where we want to get as exit, which is, many times the case during the second push, right? Even more so probability-wise on the third push, etc. Right? So, okay, so here we are. So it came back down to some yesterday's value low area, came back, into the first part of the fib range, right? You can see here's the first part of the fib range. All right, so okay, so I add 2 to it, right, in this time frame on when it's breaking out of that 2-minute low, right? But it doesn't go anywhere, right? Because it's going back into there again. So then, but even though it looks like it might, see right here, right? It looks like it might be breaking out. And so I add to it again. Right now, at that particular point in time, I'm carrying 6, right? And I needed it to penetrate. I was stacked up here, right? I'm pretty sure it's stacked up on single units. Stacked up there with just right at or a little bit beyond VWAP, right? To start to exit, right? And be in the money, contributing to my, and at this point, it would have been contributing to my 8 points, right? It would have been adding to my 8 points, and I would have been exiting the trade, and all would have been good. It didn't do that. And then so it finally broke down some more, right? It just would not get me out, right? And it broke down some more, right? Now look, the minute average is still going up. TBR1 is still going up. But at that point on the P&L, right, you could see that I had donated my profits back plus, right? So then I decided, okay, I'm going to reverse. So now I'm short 6, right? So I still have all of this resistance range in terms of a price point up here, but I'm kind of sweating it, right? Hence, I'm sweating it because I took my initial position way up in here, right? And I'm falling back. Again, we're talking about double units here, right? So I am, of course, this week is simulation money, but I am going to be pressing the account more just so I try not to do this. So I cognitively try not to do this, right? But I need to get some examples on video. And simulation is certainly the time to do that. So now I'm short 6, right? So dang it, all right. And then I don't really like my exit points, but I have to. Since the market is still going up, I have to judge it. I have to wait and judge it, and I have to wait to see if these areas up here, right where it stopped before, is going to be a double top. Okay. So it did come up here, right to the double top area, had some selling, and is breaking down. So I added 2. So now I think I've got 8. Right? Account's fine. My P&L is breaking me out in the sweat because one, I have a lot, and I've booked some losses on this reverse, right? More so than I had profits for the day. So then I'm continuing to watch here, right? Comes back up into this area, and I'm watching a little bit more, right? So this high region is starting, it's still holding. It still hasn't quite hit the pivot point, and I get some more selling, right? And this time it breaks down out of the 2 minute part, 2 minute close, and I add some more here, right? So at this point I've got 6, 8, 10, right? And so I've been able to pull my exit points up, but now I'm especially if I was on real money, but now I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not necessarily going to wait until I get all my profit back and then make another big profit move. Don't want to do that if I'm pressing the account right much. Right. So what I said is if it starts to break down here, I might add to it. Again, I'm just looking for small improvements at this point, right? So I added 2 here, 2 here. I'm still positioned to either get out or maybe potentially reverse. All right, so it's getting me out. All right, so good. So now I'm breaking down under the minute average. I'm breaking down under the 2-minute close. And so I'm getting out of some. I did not get out of all, right? So I'm out of half. So ish, right? And so my position average is improved. It pulls back up to the minute average. That's the case many times, right? Just like the opposite direction as well. It first, here's the first example. It first needs to come under the minute average, come back up, which it did, and then push back down. And that's when I added, right? And it came back down. Then it needs to and can, right, come back up to, in this case, VWAP, had the VWAP and the minute average here, right? And then come back down. All right, so in that case, right, my lowest exit, I think, did I add to it anywhere? Oh yeah, I did. All right, on this move, I added to it at some point. I don't see the little marker on it. Maybe it's there. It looks like that might have been it because that was an origination point. But I'm not using those down here to exit. I'm playing in the price action range, right? So I'm playing in the price action range, and getting out and getting out and getting out, and so those were losses from the original reverse point, right? Since I added to it and I'm sweating, then I could get out before my original point. But now I have also decided that getting out of the trade and being profitable for the day is more important, since I've had these scares. I've recognized that I've made a mistake on the initial entry, right? That I want to save myself, right? So I did that, and then I'm ultimately out of the trade here. Could it have come down? So now we're on the downhill side, right? So, but I'm out of the trade. Now, if I was out of the trade and still trading for the day, I have lots of other opportunities, right? That could have been a trade, right? And out, it could have been a trade in and out. So I could have had, 2 more trades, and at this point, I would have been back to, right, my original price and my original profit level, which is 8 points plus some, right, which would have probably significantly more than paid for my inefficiency on the commissions. Okay, so that's that scenario. So this was an example in how to not chase. Remember, did that on purpose. How to not chase. If you do and you go, uh-oh, right, then sometimes you're going to have to be a trader, and we know how to be a trader, but we would prefer easy profits, right? So this distance, chasing at this distance is dangerous, right? Dangerous. Could end in badness. Didn't today, but if it had been real money, would have made me sweat a little bit. and I had a bunch of units. I had at one point I maxed out, not for very long, right? And I was close to price action. So the account would not have been significantly pressured, not significantly pressured, but at one point I had 14 contracts, right? So and that's about as and I only had that many because it was coming down to me, right? And I was getting out relatively soon. Okay, and then watching for the double tops, or if it was the opposite case for double bottoms, coming back the way, taking units out, and then managing it as we could, and then managing it, and ultimately come out still profitable for the day, still relatively early in the day, if it were normal times, and I would have been right back into right back into profit for the day, and good profits. And if I wasn't totally freaked out, would have been continuing to trade. But the overall, so we've had a couple of examples, I think, of reverses adding to, and ultimately examples of why we don't want to chase, right? If we're going to do this and pressure the account, why we don't want to chase. All right. So any questions on that? I do have one question to answer, and it's a good question. So any questions on that? I mean, the most important thing is to not chase, but there was also some good examples on managing the P&L and exit points and expectations and those sorts of things. Okay, I don't see any questions coming in on that. So let me come back to a question that was asked earlier, which is a good question. And the question is, do you use the same strategy on one unit to turn off and on the bracket and add on in reverse? And it's a great question. And if you're not yet comfortable with the double unit, and or your account size is not quite there to be able to do it, even though we're not letting it go against us and all this kind of stuff, it's completely and totally fair to still trade your comfortable unit size, right, with the exact same strategy, right? So with the exact same strategy. So you, in that case, if you're trading, if you're going to stick with one unit, and let's say your one unit was a single contract of macro, E-mini, whatever it might be, you in that case you don't have to use the master strategy, right? You could just use the bracket and set your profit point to whatever you're comfortable with, right? And then if you're going to add to it, right, in the case of, hey, it went away from me a little bit, I'm not ready to reverse, I want to improve my position average to give it a chance to do that, you would still turn either your bracket strategy off, or your master strategy off. You would still add to it. You would still place that exit point manually, right, just as you saw us me doing today, to be able to walk away with profits on that particular trade, assuming that you got out of, in this case, let's say you added to it once and you got out of both units / contracts, right? And if you're going to, you'd still use the exact same strategy if you were going to reverse, right? So you would still reverse, check your gross profit, or your profit from the position strategy to see what you needed on your reverse position to get all your money back plus some initially, right? And then if you had, so then you know in your mind what that dollar value is, right? And then if you add to it, if you add to the reverse, because you get, it's continuing to come down, you're not that necessarily close to your exit point. You still have that dollar figure in your mind, and you start to place that exit on that dollar figure of the dome, right? And you adjust the other ones that you originally had up, right? So the exact same strategy, but you're just your unit quantity is less. This is my strategy going forward, right? And to keep it, because nobody likes, even though we get away with it many times, even most times, it is not fun to stretch, right? And the double unit is a psychological tool that I am using so that I don't sit here and believe that I could trade out of just about anything that the market could do for me. Of course, that by definition, that is not correct, but I want to get that out of my head, right? Because if the market had a really bad thing, right, then I'd be in it for a long, long time. And I don't like working overtime. Okay, so that was a good question, and probably applicable to many, right? Many people. Okay, and how about these diagonal lines? Which one, Sean? The exits? These things? The green ones and the yellow ones? I mean, the green ones and the red ones? Like this cluster and that cluster? Is that what you meant? Okay, those are just your drawing the lines of your position, open and close, first in, first out, right? So that's a function of chart trading, right? So if you want those, and certainly for the video, and I even have them on my chart as well. To get those, you would right click on your chart and select chart trading, and this box is going to come up. And general settings is showing active and historical orders in open positions. That's how you get all the active orders. Okay, and then historical orders, right? Is you can adjust the formatting of those, but those diagonal lines that you're referring to are called the connecting lines, right? So go into the connecting line tab, enable them, and then set the weight. I think I like the second. This is my weight that I choose. I think the first one is a little bit too pale. Let me show you what the first one would look like. Like it's whatever your choice is. But anyways, that's what that would look like. I choose the second one. Okay, so again, and you can even change the color, but classical is hey, if it's green, it's a profitable trade, and if it's red, then that one was an unprofitable trade, not contributing to profits. So don't get freaked out. For instance, right? So when you're setting the initial profit target, right? If you had gotten out of everything at that point, right, then you would have had a combination of red and green going into that price point, right? So the first few that you get, right, are all going. If you have them spread out, right, the first few that you're going to get are the red lines, and then and I had a bunch bunched up right there, right. The last ones are going to be green, getting completely out of the trade, and you can see where those were coming from. Good question. Alrighty. You bet. You guys have a good weekend too. I'm not planning on trading anymore today. This week has been more capturing videos and educational on this new technique. which is not that different than previous techniques. It's just a matter of tweaking a couple of things. Any other questions? Okay, I think that's it. I'm going to stop the video.